Today I would like to talk about the thought implant. Thought implant. The thought implant is not a physical implant as one might expect, a device which you put into your body or into your brain or into your hand. That's a different implant, that's a microchip. I want to talk about a thought implant, and that is a structure inside of your consciousness, whether we call it the subconscious, whether we call it the psyche. It's a structure that restricts or alters your thinking pattern. In many cases, the thought implant blocks access to certain levels of thinking. And there are different kinds of thought implants. I want to talk about three kinds. I think we can do three. Because thought implants are not new things. But it's not something we've been able to identify and scientifically validate. But we do have some clues about these structures in the mind, as I'd like to call them. There are several different kinds. There are beneficial thought implants that we are born with so that we will achieve certain things in life, so that we will become certain kinds of people in life. There are thought implants that are implanted during your life. At certain points in your life, they can be implanted by those who can manage thought implants. Typically, these kinds of people are interdimensional class beings. Some kind of stellar culture, stellar scientist, or a human scientist that has the technology borrowed from stellar cultures. So you can fudge that a little bit. So that's two kinds of thought implants. The third kind is the thought implant that forms itself over a prolonged period of time, usually in conjunction with mind control, brainwashing, and mass propaganda. So let's start with this one, because propaganda, brainwashing, mind control, programming, right, this social engineering, what it does is it creates these, it wires your brain to think a certain way. That's why if you grow up in a communist country, you think different than if you grow up in a democratic country. If you grow up in a violent household, you think differently than if you grow up in a loving household. But what's really different is that your experiences are changing the way your brain functions. Your brain processes information, right? Such that if you live in a violent household, your brain will wire itself differently in order to survive that environment. And if you're in a loving household, your brain will wire itself differently. You will see yourself differently. You will achieve different goals in life because of the environment. I think that most people should understand that. Same with a country, a communist or autocracy or democracy. Your brain starts to wire itself differently. And same with propaganda. So the repetition of certain propaganda, you know, social engineering, that changes the way you think. And these kinds of experiences, these kinds of engineering processes, these kinds of brainwashing system, mind control, however you want to call it, it not only changes the wiring, it also creates thought implants, or creates it becomes a fertile ground for a thought implant. So for example, you grow up in a difficult household, then you start to meet you know, of different kind of people, and then you might get into crime and criminal activity. So that, you know, your experiences are shaping your thinking, and your thinking is shaping the outcome, and then you can predict that outcome. So that's formations in the brain. Now, I'm not a neuroscientist, so keep that in mind. But because I want to get to the higher stage of thought implants, which is more difficult to express, so I'm just starting with the basic thought implant. So once you have this fertile ground, through programming and conditioning, you form these ideas. Now, a thought implant on a basic level is like an idea that I can only do this, that I can only do that, that I can only do this. That is the beginning of a thought implant. It's not exactly a thought implant, because a thought implant is a purposeful instrument, structure, inside your consciousness or your subconscious. Now, an example of a thought implant that I use as part of a propaganda system is the evil alien invasion thought implant. Through the mass repetition and propagandization of an evil alien invasion through mass media, movies, entertainment, books, and UFO experts that are part of the disinformation campaign and part of the intelligence agencies who tell everybody that there's going to be an alien invasion. So after decades of this propaganda, starting with War of the Worlds, there's going to be an alien invasion. There's going to be an alien invasion. So that you have people who believe in aliens, you have people who believe in extraterrestrials, but then there's this propaganda, which is mind control, to say that there's going to be an evil alien invasion. Now, when you think of aliens, you think of alien invasion. That's the implant. So you see my thinking? That's the implant. That was put in there by propagandists. That's brainwashing, mind control, psychological operations. So that's one of the kinds of thought implants. So that on a subconscious level, you think there might be aliens, but as soon as you start to think about aliens, you become scared and you think they're going to invade and destroy us. Independence Day. Independence Day exists, the movie exists because of these implants. And I could say a large portion of the people who believe in aliens in the mainstream, in the back of their mind, they have this idea because that's the implant. So that's a false structure that limits your thinking, because obviously that's not true. Now, the other kind of implant, the thought implant, can be put into your consciousness or subconsciousness. Now, in the Stellan culture, they have sciences and technologies to put implants into a person. Some people call them implants. I call them thought implants. A lot of the time, it depends on the culture. If it's a benevolent culture, they will put implants so that you will attain or achieve certain things in life. A benevolent culture will work in conjunction with a person, that if you want to achieve something in life, certain thought implants will be inserted. If you're working with a dark culture, aka evil culture, that understands this system, then they will manipulate you, they will coerce you into making the wrong decisions, and then you becoming or achieving the wrong things in life. You believing in some things that don't exist, right? Now, when I talk about Stellans, when we talk about Stellans and thought implants, it doesn't necessarily mean that these implants have to do with extraterrestrial stuff. These can do with life. What do you want to achieve in life? What do you want to be in life? You want to be a dancer, you want to be a singer, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be an accountant, you want to get married, you want to have children. All of these can be formulated with thought implants. Again, a benevolent culture will work in conjunction with a person to determine what are your goals in life, and then they can help you with some thought implants. Some people come here with a purpose, right? Some people come here with a purpose, or they're reincarnated, and you know you're reincarnated if you're reincarnated, and if you think about past lives, you're probably reincarnated. Now, those people often come with basic implants inside of them so that they can achieve their goals, so that they can achieve, in other words, there's a million things to do in life, and these implants help to focus and structure the life. It's a more common thing than you might think, but the science is much more advanced. And since I'm not really a scientist, although I have an understanding of this system, this technology, I'm not able to create the scientific basis to explain all of this. But these things do exist, and there is evidence of that. Just like I said with the evil alien invasion thought implant. That is a false implant. Then you have, let's say you want to become a lawyer in life. That could be an implant. That could be a thought implant to ensure that you become a lawyer. Or let's say you want to get married, or let's say you want to become successful. Now the third, this is kind of moving into the third kind of implant, is that we're born with certain implants. Again, this is a subconscious. This is at the energetic level. It could even be, we could think of it as a genetic, at the genetic level. So this is a very, it's a very sensitive, it's a very high-tech, and it's a very small thing to discuss. In other words, a little, if you have a very finely tuned system and you put, you put a chopstick into it, that's going to create havoc to the system, that's going to block the system. So the human system is so finely tuned that, if you put a little, needle, if you put a little needle here, a little needle here, a little needle here, that can completely rewire the functioning of that consciousness. Because it is a consciousness device. So you're born with certain of these implants. So those are the three basic things. You're born with certain thought implants. Throughout your life, you can be inserted with certain thought implants for good and for ill. You could, if you were implanted with, a transgender implant, then you're going to pursue that avenue, right? If you gone through all the propaganda and you subconsciously pick up all of this evil alien propaganda, then you become afraid of aliens. You become afraid of being abducted. You become afraid of an invasion. So you have this, it's a pretty wide spectrum of possibilities, but it all functions on the same kind of energetic level. Now, by the same token, when you have these things that can be put in, these things can be also removed, which is a more advanced discussion, because again, if something can be put in, something can be taken out. If you remove something of this nature, you experience certain things. Sometimes you experience an awakening process. Sometimes you experience a grieving process, a release of emotions, an anger process. sometimes that's due to this removal or the diminishment of an implant. Because you could say that because it's a structure in the consciousness, if you are strong-willed and you work at self-improvement, you could diminish these implants. In other words, you could change your goals in life. You know, your family may all be doctors, but you can say, I'm going to break out of that and become a dancer. So you can diminish some of these thought implants through a lot of work and effort. You can also, the thought implant also diminishes over time. It weakens. So for example, the alien invasion implant, every 5 or 6 years there's a new alien invasion movie, big budget, to reinforce the implant. So when people, and you can see this, I mean, if you really have to study society and you really have to study things to see how implants work. But if you see the evil alien invasion, everybody's afraid of aliens. So nobody talks about aliens. But after a few years go by, people start talking about extraterrestrials, what it would be like, what do they want, where are they? And about that time, there's a new alien invasion movie, and then people stop talking about them. So you see that there's the implant, it starts to weaken, people start to think bigger, the wiring starts to change, and then there's a new thing. So thought implants, because they could be put in, they can also be pulled out. Now, if you are a person here on a purpose, if you have an understanding of the universe and you're very spiritual, you may be already dealing with thought implants because you may have been awakened. Well, if a number of thought implants can hinder your life, can structure your life, because that's what you want to experience, then by removing these implants, you become awakened, there's an energy burst, an anger burst, and then you start to change your lifestyle, you start to teach people about ancient Egypt, and you start talking about ancient archaeology and the structures on Pluto. Because what's happened is, these things have been removed. Now, it can be they were removed, or it can be they just, they were timed out. They could have been a timing thing. They could have been timed out. It is a big discussion. Let's finish by talking about that there are the master controllers, the people who basically control the world. They understand what I'm talking about, even to a higher degree. And they also know that there are people who came here with a purpose, and they have these implants. And that if these implants are removed, those people will go out and become activists, they will become enthusiasts, and they will wake up society, they will teach society, they will become the new David Icks. So the master controllers know that. So one way to prevent that awakening, those activists, one way is to make sure that those thought implants don't get removed. So they reinforce that. Reinforce that by saying, you need money, you need a mortgage, you need, conspiracy theory is garbage, there are no aliens, and that reinforces these implants. Because if you take off the implants, then all things are possible. Yes, there could be interstellar cultures, some conspiracies are true, all of these things, right? Do I need this? Do I need all of this? Do I need a fancy car? How much greed? Do I need to do I need to pursue in my life? So one way the master controllers can control society is by reinforcing those thought implants so that they are not removed, or that they don't fade away, or they take much longer, and then you wake up late. You wake up when you're 50, you wake up when you're 40, or you wake up when you're financially obsolete, and you wake up and you've been divorced 3 times and failed careers and too many children. You know, that instead of these things occurring when they should occur, because that's the key, right? Because if you understand thought implants, if you understand that they diminish and they remove, and then that's your chance to change direction, that's your chance to change lifestyle, that's your chance to pursue something else. When that happens, you don't see it as a negative. Gee, my life is falling apart, my marriage is falling apart, boo hoo hoo. Or if you understand these thought implants, you say, well, there's a big change in my life. It's because these things are being shuffled around, these things are changing. It's time to change direction. It is a difficult topic to talk about, but there are also these, these amoral groups that can put thought implants into you. Even the magical class, the dark magician, they understand some of these ideas, so they can put in ideas into you. Don't pursue this activism because you're going to fail. Don't trust the aliens because they're going to cheat you. And or you're bisexual. Yes, I am. And by the time they're through attacking you, you're a bisexual priest who believes in the Pleiadian god called Akbar on the mountain of Anunnaki. I mean, you could really distort your mind. Of course, it's very difficult to prove. We're not there yet to really scientifically identify thought implants. I think in the future we will. That they are these energetic structures in the brain. The biggest thought implant, and we'll finish with this, the biggest thought implant is a deity. That's the biggest one. That is a structure very deep in the psyche and in the society, in the psyche of the mass consciousness. It's very advanced. It's a very advanced thought implant. But it's deep in the mass consciousness. And the mass consciousness keeps that real. But really, is it real? And the proof is basically atheists have just as good, if not better, lives as those who are non-atheists, right?